Right, okay, day 4 then of the Cheltenham Festival. Let's kick off with the Triumph Hurdle, which again could be another one that cuts up a little bit, mainly because Willie Mullins has a strong hand. Lossymouth 7-4, Blood Destiny is 7-4, Gala Marceau 5-1. Then we're out to Comfort Zone at 10s. Bow Zenith is the shortest priced British challenger at 14s. Tikau 20s. And then 20-1 bar those. Kate, coming to you guys for this one first. And again, I mean, it's a similar story to the Supreme in the sense that we were expecting a Willie Mullins horse to go to Leopardstown, confirm its chances in a big race. That didn't happen, and now suddenly we have to work out whether Lossymouth's going to turn that form around.
Yeah, which is really intriguing, isn't it? Thank goodness we've got Willie Mullins having these 3 horses at the head of the market here, and he's looking like he's going to send all 3 of those as well. But because of the Cheltenham Preview Night circuit, not that any of the other ones matter apart from this one, but because Blood Destiny has been a real talking horse and lots of people have been tipping him up then for the triumph over Lossymouth, it has seen them go joint favourites now at the head of the market. But Lossymouth obviously suffering her first defeat last time out, Barry. But are you forgiving of that, or do you think there was more to it?
No, I would be forgiving of it on the day, but Lossymouth has been very impressive in slowly run races, travels really well, shows a good turn of foot. Has been impressive, as I say, but hasn't really been tested. Blood Destiny won his maiden in Cork really impressively, jumped brilliantly. Just he's a scopy individual, strong traveller, stays well, picks up. To me, he's the right type for this race. I really liked him then. He didn't jump as well as he could have done next time, but still won really impressively. Gala Marceau won the race in Leopardstown that Lossymouth got stuck in traffic. Very keen going, so would need to settle. Has a good level of ability, but just potentially could just take too much out of herself. So for me, I'm very much in the Blood Destiny camp. I think he's the one, and it'll be interesting to see which Paul Townend decides to ride. I
know, that's going to be, yeah, if you were deciding then you would go with Blood Destiny.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so Paul Townend's really got a job on his hands here, Andy, for which one to go with. But which one are you siding with?
Yeah, he has. I think it's going to cause him 1 or 2 headaches, to be honest, because he's been very much in the Lossymouth camp right from the start. 3 for 3 on the mare. She's looked good. She wasn't lucky last time out. He'd want to sort of resurrect what happened last time out, because he was obviously kicking himself for getting stuck in the horse, dropping back into his own lap from the same ownership. You sort of like couldn't make it up what happened. She was definitely the best horse in the race. Should have won the Spring Juvenile, and that's usually the best guide with regards, the winner of the Triumph. Don't like Gala Marceau. Obviously she took advantage of what happened to Lossymouth, but she pulled very hard that day, and she can't afford to do that at Cheltenham. But those 2 aside, I do think we've got a really good horse in the shape of Blood Destiny. He's my nap of the meeting, actually. I'm rather hoping Paul Townend does ride Blood Destiny. The vibes are definitely suggesting that might be the case. It wouldn't really bother me if Danny Mullins rode it, because Danny's stepped in and been a Defogarigi, hasn't he, in recent times, to use a football analogy. He's a really good super sub. But Blood Destiny was just so good first time out at Cork. Just glided over his hurdles, beat a good field. Not a particularly strong time, but a good time. But his time figure last time out when he won at Fairyhouse was off the charts. I've been keeping speed figures now for 15, 20 years, and there's usually a line in the sand where you need to be to win a Triumph Hurdle. It just proves that you've run a fast time at championship level, and you're pretty much guaranteed to do that in the Triumph. If he runs as quick as he did at Fairyhouse, he's going to be very difficult to beat. And the fact that he was eased down to do it as well on the running suggested he could have gone even quicker. But his jumping again that day was flawless. And Nusrit, who came over and won our Adonis Hurdle, was 20 lengths back in 3rd. That's how good Blood Destiny was that day. I know Lossymouth beat Nusrit as well at Leopardstown, but to my estimation, not quite as easily. So it's no surprise to me that Blood Destiny is now the gambler race. I think it was 3-1 a few days ago, into 7-4, and I think he'd probably shorten up even more close to the time. But I'm coming in off my long run with Blood Destiny. He's my best bet at the meeting.
Oh, there you go. We're giving away the naps then already. But all three of us, the hat-trick then of votes for Blood Destiny. I also think that he just jumps an awful lot better than Lossiemouth. She has a lot of ability, and I really like her because she's genuine and straightforward, but she just gives a bit too much height to some of her hurdles. I think Blood Destiny's a lot more accurate. So 3 of us for Blood Destiny, and probably the first time Divock Origi's managed to get a mention at a Cheltenham Preview Night as well. So who knew?
Who knew? He's just texted me actually. He says he really fancies Blood Destiny as well, so that's great news. He's a 7-4 joint favourite now with Lossiemouth. So I think that's the first one that everyone's genuinely properly agreed on as well.
What's going on?
Which is not. I mean, it's got to win, hasn't it? So let's move on to the Albert Bartlett 3-mile novices hurdle here, which has been won by some good horses over the years. Some good horses have been beating it as well. The likes of Allaho, Manila Indo, of course, has won this back in the day. Bobsworth, of course, and obviously Ride of the last 10 or 15 years, probably at Fisher's Cross. Absolutely fantastic it was at Fisher's Cross, bolting up in the Albert Bartlett. But Corbett's Cross 7-2. Favourite for this, Embassy Gardens 6-1, Hermes Allen 6s, Hidden Valley Lake Ace, 3 Crowd Bragg 8s, Sander Clegane 8s, Favre de Champ do 10s with plenty of others. This is the one novice hurdle where, quite frankly, you could have a full field. You could have it's usually a huge field and it's wide open.
Nice try. Look at his face.
Did it work?
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, super wide open this. I thought lots of horses you could make little cases for. Obviously, Corbett's Cross for the ever so sneaky Emmett Mullins is definitely interesting. The bet in this race for me, I thought, was Hidden Valley Lake. I was hoping was going to be a bit of a bigger price. Hopefully, money carries on coming for Corbett's Cross, and then he might drift out further. I think, 8-1 Hidden Valley Lake. I think he was the best horse in the race. We talked about Edwardstone getting beat, but you felt like it was the best horse in the race and it wasn't the right result. I felt like this about Hidden Valley Lake last time out. Over in Clonmel, had to make his own money, made mistakes. He looked like he stayed well. I mean, Monty's Pass is a bigger price than him in the betting for good reason, because people perhaps seeing what I saw. So Hidden Valley Lake's going to be my each way bet in the race.
Monty's Pass died about...
Monty's Star, sorry. I even looked at the screen as well.
He died of old age about 3 months ago.
That'll be happening to you soon. I don't know what you're laughing at. Anyway, you know what I meant, and so did the other 250 people here. Don't be a... Right, come on. Do this race. Help me out.
Sorry, Leonna. I'm only joking. I like Favre de Champ, though. I thought he was really impressive in Limerick over Christmas, and he's 3-3. The Albert Bartlett is a race that I think suits horses that have plenty of experience. He ran in 3 or 4 points. He ran 3 or 4 bumpers. His last 3 hurdle runs have been pretty good. As I said, I think Hermes Allen should be running this. I know he's not, but this is what he should be running in. Embassy Gardens was really impressive the last day, but I just think at 10-1, I think Gordon's horse has got the right profile for a race like this.
Andrew?
I'd agree. Yeah, the stayer. You just want a thorough stayer. It's a real grind, this race. And he fits that bill. He's had 3 runs over 3 miles this time and hardened to it, which is, 10-1. He won't be that on the day.
He's not won the race though yet, has he, Gordon? That's one of those ones that's evaded him so far. Would that worry you at all?
No, I don't think so. He just obviously hasn't had the right type of horse for it, really, I think. But I think he has the right profile for it. As I said, I think of all the others, he just looks like he's race hardened. You know, he's to say the fact that he'd ran in 3 or 4 points and 3 or 4 bumpers, and now he's won his last 3 hurdle races. Just think he's got the right profile. I'm not sure Corbett's Cross is going to run, and Embassy Gardens is the other one. The others don't really have okay form without it being. He just looks like he's the potential to step it up again, you know.
Any opinions, Leonna?
That's it. We've got value in there. I mean, I was just looking at Embassy Gardens there. The only other kind of little bit I wrote about him, he absolutely bolted up obviously over in Thurles, but it's one of those things when you're trying to look back at what they've beaten, and we've got to try and weigh up how good that form is or isn't, similar to Corbett's Cross really. So I did think there was proper value to be found in there, which obviously we all sentiment that even with different horses.
There you go, a few for the Albert Bartlett and Embassy Gardens up there, who won the same race that Monkfish did before taking this race a couple of seasons ago. Let's move on though to the big one, the Gold Cup, and it could be a big one this year as well. Galopin des Champs is a 7-4 favourite. It's ahead of Brave Man's Game at 7s, Noble Yates at 8-1, Aplutard is 8-1, Statler 9-1, Conflated 12s, Ahoy Signor is 14s, and the fact that the Betfair Chase Winner Protectorate is a 14-1 shot suggests how good this race is. But over to you, you lot first, because we've got a fantastic race, but we've got a 7-4 favourite, which tells you how much people think Galopin Des Champs could be another, as we mentioned earlier, freak.
Yeah, exactly, and he could well be. And I think that he put a lot of doubters to rest last time out with how well he hit the line and how well he stayed. But he's still dividing opinion to a certain extent, whether or not he's going to get that extra yardage at Cheltenham here. And people are still trying to take him on at the head of the market. But like you say, kind of ability-wise, he definitely looks just a whole league of his own at this stage anyway. But behind him, Barry, it is a wide open contest, so multiple ways to play this.
There is, but just dealing with the favourite himself, Galopin Des Champs, the race in Leopardstown, it wasn't run at a hectic pace, so he probably wasn't fully tested, albeit he's more relaxed, which is definitely helping him. Drier ground at Cheltenham, which is looking likely to be, which is going to help him then in stamina stakes. The question of where will the pace come from? A High Seigneur would be a front runner. There wouldn't be many front runners. There would be horses to be handy, so you might find a High Seigneur is the front runner with maybe, I don't know, Bud Manila, Indo, Statler, Ewick sits second. Would they be the ones to push him? But it won't be an end-to-end gallop like you would have had a Native River year. So I don't think the emphasis will be on stamina to really find this fellow out. So I think he's going to be very, very hard to beat. As regards the others, Noble Yates, I thought he did an eye-catching run in the Cotswold Chase in Cheltenham last time. He will have his cheek pieces back on. He definitely has a chance. Brave Man's Game, a little bit like the favourite, has stamina questions to answer, and maybe he will answer those. But we've all been, I know I didn't fancy him for the King George and he proved me wrong. I'm not going to fancy him for the Gold Cup and he might prove me wrong there as well, but we'll have to wait and see. Aplutard, you know, you're taking it on trust that he's come out of, you know, been a non-runner that day in Leopardstown. Statler is a horse I like. He stepped up to the 3-6 in the National Chase last year. There was a question mark about him getting the trip. He travelled well that day. Now the question mark is, has he got the pace for this? Obviously they didn't go quick enough for him in Leopardstown, I feel, but in a reasonably run race, I think he could be one of the ones to come through to pick up the pieces. But it's very open, but I think the favourite is going to be very, very hard to beat. So
Statler each way, is that the way you play this?
Yeah, Statler's the each way option, but Galopin Des Champs is at 7-4. Do you know what? I'd go and take it.
Yeah, you think that's probably a fair price?
I think so. Yeah, like when you go through the potential for the ground, the potential for the pace, and how his racing style this year in comparison to last year, I think he's highly likely going to get the trip and win.
Oh, okay then. So confident selection for Barry, Andy. So you're going to pour any cold water on Galopin?
No, hard to really be against him in any great magnitude. Still recovering from last year when he fell at the last in the Turners. That was a real body blow. Like his time figures are amazing. He jumps brilliantly. He just out-jumped, didn't he? But it wasn't necessarily a fall as such. I think just momentum got him on the floor in the Turners last year. He looked strong at the finish. Leopardstown the other day, he was going further away from Statler as far as my eyes could see. So I think he confirmed the form there. I wouldn't put anyone off if I fancied him at 7-4. I wouldn't say that's rank bad value. I think it's probably about the right price. The way I'm going to slice and dice this race is probably bet without Galopin Des Champs. Probably have a look at the place markets, 3-4 places, and I fancy an outsider in this to outrun his odds. I'm not saying he'll definitely win, but I think he's the wrong price. And that sounds Russian, the horse that finished second in the Cotswold Chase. I must admit, I've spent more times watching that race and analysing it than any other race this season. I'm convinced that Sounds Russian was the best horse in the race. I think if Sean Quinlan had a chance to ride that race again, and I don't think he's ridden Cheltenham too many times, he might have not had the rush of blood to the head that he did. He basically took the running up at the first ditch going down the far side. I know why he did it, because normally Sounds Russian hits a flat spot and runs on. So he's kind of gone with the horse and didn't want to disappoint him. But in doing that, he was fully in front over a mile and a half from home. It's a long way home there. And he rather let his chin was sticking out like a bit of a glass chin, turning for the home straight. To be fair to him, he's pulled out all the stops when Ahoy Signor came back at him again. And to his credit, he was staying on just as strong at the line. He only got beat a length and a half. That was an amazing effort, considering how far he led that field. He beat Protectorat and Noble Yates fair and square, as far as I could see, despite having run really hard in the hottest part of the race. And yet they're a shorter price. I just don't get why Noble Yates is 8-1 and Protectorat is still 14s. I think he'll turn the form around with Ahoy Signor, and he's 20-1. And I think the biggest indication of his chances is that for a relatively small stable of Ruth Jefferson, they've given up the chance to race on home soil at Kelso over the weekend and run for 50-odd grand in a bid to go for the Gold Cup. I just feel as though they, like me, think this horse is in absolutely the peak form of his life, and they're going to roll the dice and let him take his chance. And I tend to agree. I think he'll massively outrun his odds. I think he'll be in the first four. Because whether he beats Galopin Des Champs, I don't know, but I'll be pretty sure he'll run a good deal better than a lot of people think. Because I think he was the best horse in the race in the Cotswolds.
Perfect. So looking in the without market mainly, those sounds Russian.
I've backed him at a big price because I just thought the odds were daft after the race. I think he was 33-1. He's still 20s, and I think if you shop around on the day, there'll be loads of special markets, place only markets, stuff like that. But I'm going to be having a right crack at Sounds Russian to run really well.
I like it a lot then. But we're all in agreement that Galopin Des Champs is clearly the horse to beat, therefore. But Hewick for me, because absolute scenes. Could you imagine that with the Shark walking back into the winner's enclosure? If Hewick goes and wins for National, it'll be the most unconventional... National? Well, that as well, potentially, for the Gold Cup. It would be the most unconventional route to the Gold Cup ever. But for me, away from Galopin Des Champs, it's such an open race, 20-1. Hewick may get taken, well, probably is going to get taken on for the lead, but I think he's earned that official rating of 167 very well. So, yeah, divided.
Wide open Gold Cup then, plenty of opinions there. And we haven't even mentioned King George winner in Brave Man's Game, a dual Grade 1 winner at Leopardstown in Conflated, last year's winner at Plutard. It's a cracking race, Leonna.
Yeah, absolutely. And a few of the ones you've mentioned, they probably haven't been mentioned because we're not, we aren't sure, are we? Plutard, one of them. I mean, he's got major question marks to answer. I was there when he ran disappointing in the Betfair Chase, and in all honesty, I don't want to say I'm a paddock judge, but I think I do okay. He looked amazing. He was in the paddock, everyone was taken by him, and it was like, this is going to go and be amazing, and he's going to look amazing. And of course, that's not what happened. So that has to be a concern because he did look at his very best, and he was disappointing. I know words from camp now are that he's back to his best, he's working great, etc. But we all have to take that on trust, which I'm not happy to do. Brave Man's Game is pretty simple. I mean, we've seen some great form for him, but he is... he's a typical Paul Nicholls horse. He's a very kind of light-framed, athletic horse. But I was at Wetherby when he was there, and he does get worked up before the start. That has to be a concern, and his form has petered off in recent seasons because the racing's become too much for him. I do think he's calmer than he was, but would I still back him at a short enough price in a Gold Cup? Absolutely not. The fact Andy was saying about, I don't think there will be a super amount of pace in here. Surely the one horse in here that's going to benefit is Ahoy Signor, although he did show last time that he doesn't have to stay in front and keep going from the front, because I was super impressed with him that he did get headed and he still pulled out more, and he was ready for a fight, which he hasn't been in the past. Again, at Wetherby when he ran, and he's a tank of a horse, so it's actually hard to tell sometimes if they're a big build, if they're fat, if they're just, they need the run, or if that's just their build. But obviously Skew was very adamant after that he was fat. We've not done enough with him. These smaller yards, sometimes if they have a very good horse, they probably look after them a little too much. As soon as they think they're good, they don't work them too hard. They do a bit less with them, and they're careful with them, and whether that's what happened with him. But yeah, he's my value bet in the race. He was relaxed last time. He didn't look fresh. He wasn't silly. And he may well get an easy lead in front. Not that he looks like he needs it now. So Ahoy Signor, my bet in there. Maybe.
Willie Mullins has trained 88 winners at the Cheltenham Festival. If you're listening to him, you'd think that Galopin Des Champs was the one. He could be a bit different. He definitely looks more relaxed than he was last year. His jumping is not as exuberant. You could not be impressed. The speed of the race in Leopardstown was slow, and he still picked up from the last and ran out through the line. He was very, very impressive. The pace in the Gold Cup was always a thing. Manila Undo won it a couple of years ago. They went a real good gallop. He probably outstayed at Plutard. Last year they obviously went slow. There was a load of them had a chance coming down the hill, and he was the fastest horse in the race. I don't think Plutard is going to be as fast as Galopin Des Champs. I think the race, the Cotswold Chase, I get where Andy's coming from about Ruth Jefferson's horse, but I don't think we saw the best in Noble Yates or Protectorat. Protectorat was really good at Haydock. He looked like he was trained for Haydock. He looked like they thought they were going to be able to go to the Cotswold Chase and win and not have him really ready. And the two of them, to me, watching Noble Yates and Protectorat, both of them looked like they needed the run in the Cotswold Chase. I think Protectorat has a really good each-way chance in a Gold Cup. I'm not saying that he'd definitely win the Gold Cup, but I think he was third in it last year. His run at Haydock was really good. He looked like he was trained for that, and I think he has a chance. But there's no question, Gallop and Deschamps could be different.
Andrew?
And the way Gallop and Deschamps hit that line so hard last time up, I cannot see him not staying. You know, that race in Leopardstown, you often see them, they go through the line, they pull up within 50 yards. He hadn't pulled up in 250 yards. He was having a job pulling him up. So I just can't see an issue with the tip being a problem. And he looks so straightforward. And Brave Man's Game, I just have a feeling he likes a flat track. He's not been tested on the undulations yet. He loves the Kemptons and your Wetherbys and your Newburys, but up and down Dale. Noble Yates had to give £6 away to Sounds Russian, and I think it was 3 to Ahoy Senor with no cheek pieces on. And when the Cotswold Chase, Noble Yates has a tendency to jump a little bit left-handed. He went down the middle, and at every fence he was ducking in. In the Gold Cup, you've got the whole fence. He'll be banged down the paint. He'll keep as straight as a gun barrel. Will he be good enough to beat Gallop and Deschamps? If he finds the same turn of foot that he did at Aintree, you wouldn't rule him out. He's the one horse to me who has a turn of foot and could be dangerous in here. And I think he'll be a stone better than what he showed in the Cotswold Chase. I'd say the Cotswold Chase served a purpose, did its job, but cheap pieces make a massive difference. And Plutard, I can't remember the last horse that had one run, a pulled up run going into a Gold Cup and went and won again. You know, he had an exceptional year last year, an exceptional season the season before with good preparations. It just hasn't panned out. Statler's a strong stayer. I'm sure he'll be staying up the hill, but there might be a few in here with a touch more speed. So, Statler could be one that he could tick the box a bit like he's better than the West Tip. And the West Tip won a Grand National.
Bet in the race, actual bet in the race, Andrew.
Bet in the race would be Noble Yates each way, because I think Gallop and Deschamps the one, but at the prices, Noble Yates each way the value.
AP, Protectorat each way?
Yeah, Protectorat 14 to 1. I think he'll be thereabouts.
All the value over this side then. Ahoy Senor each way.
There you go. And the last horse to race once in a season, pull up and go to a Gold Cup was Syrium at 200 to 1, and he finished last. So it's not a great prep. But the best of the rest, Andy, on the final day.
Yeah, a couple of good handicaps to get involved in on the final day. The County Hurdle. JP owns a horse called Farley Bay, which Sir AP obviously knows really well. Good run in the Betfair the other day. Travelled really well, but he just got done by a horse who had a better track position. Massive front running bias that day. Everything won off the front. Auchenrisk got first run, but we made up 10 lengths on Auchenrisk, and the pair of them put miles clear of the rest. Was it Roubaud of Paul Nichols's, who was miles down the field? He won a graded race out of that race of the day. Strong time figure, and I think cutting his teeth in that kind of race would have done him the world of good mentally, because he'd only won 2 egg and spoon races prior to that. So he's proven in a big field when they go a good gallop. I think he's one of the best bets on the final day. And a horse called Cool Survivor represents Gigginstown, who've got an amazing record in the Martin Pipe. I'm presuming that Favori de Chambord, their other representative, will go for the Albert Bartlett. And Cool Survivor will go for the handicap. I think he's rated 140, but he finished 4th in a Grade 1 last time out at Leopardstown, and he's got plenty of good form on good ground. And I think it is good ground, or goodish ground, towards the back end of the week. That'll suit him. So Cool Survivor in the Martin Pipe, along with Farley Bay, my 2 in the handicaps.